The British Raj and the Revolt of 1857. Several hundred years ago, Arabs and Europeans traded with India. India at that time was a very rich country, famous for its spices, gold, pearls, silk, and other things. The first European to find a sea route to India was the Portuguese Vasco da Gama. He went around Africa and landed at Calicut in Kerala a little over 500 years ago. The Portuguese started trading with India mainly in spices. They were followed by the Dutch, French, and English traders. Soon, they started fighting against each other to get a bigger share of the trade for themselves. Finally, the British defeated the others. The British formed the East India Company in the year 1600 for trading in India. They made trading centers in the western and eastern coasts. They brought mainly spices and textiles from India. For some time, their main concern was only trading, British control. Around 250 years ago, the Mughal Empire in India had started declining. Several regional kingdoms emerged. The British took advantage of the constant fighting between them and started gaining control over India. The first stage of the British conquest of India was marked by the Battle of Plassey in 1757. In this battle, the British defeated Siraj-ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Bengal, and became very powerful in Bengal. In the next 100 years, they directly controlled about 2/3 of India. Discontent among Indians. You have read earlier that the Europeans colonized the non-industrialized nations of Asia and Africa for two purposes. They wanted raw materials from these countries to feed their factories, and they wanted a market for the goods they produced. The East India Company did the same in India. They used unfair means to get rich themselves at the cost of Indians. The farmers in India were forced to grow crops like indigo and cotton, which provided the British with raw materials for their factories. The British purchased these at very low prices. As a result, the farmers suffered. They became poorer while the British made huge profits. The milk cloth made by the British industries was sold in India. Because of this, the Indian handloom industry suffered, and the workers became poorer. Traders also suffered because of the goods coming from Britain. The British made unjust laws through which they could take control of more and more kingdoms in India. One such law said that if a ruler died without a child, his kingdom would be taken over by the British. This made the kings and nawabs of India very unhappy. For their own profit, the British took advantage of all Indians, farmers, workers, traders, kings and nawabs. All Indians were angry and dissatisfied with the British rule. Whenever such a situation exists, there are great chances of a revolt. People forget their fears and differences and together rise against their rulers. This is what happened in India in 1857. A small incident started a revolt that was quickly joined by a large population. The Revolt of 1857, the First War of Independence. The revolt was started by the Indian soldiers serving in the British Army on 10th May 1857. It started when some Indian soldiers in Meerut refused to use new Lee Enfield rifles. To load the rifles, the soldiers had to bite off the ends of greased cartridges. A rumor spread among the soldiers that the cartridges were greased with the fat of cows and pigs. The Hindus regard cows as sacred and Muslims regard pigs as unclean. So the rumor angered both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. They shot down their officers and took over Meerut. Then they marched to Delhi and persuaded the last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar to lead the revolt. The revolt spread rapidly to other parts of India. Different leaders led the revolt in different parts of India. Some of the prominent leaders were Nana Sahib, Tantia Top, Rani Lakshmibai and Liaquat Ali. But the British had superior weapons and greater military strength. Many Indians also sided with the British. The revolt, known as the First War of Independence, was finally crushed by the British. However, they were very alarmed. In 1858, the British government decided to take India under its direct control. The rule of the East India Company ended.
My lords, ladies and
a viceroy was appointed to rule over India on behalf of the King of Britain. Though the revolt failed, Indians were inspired by the bravery of those who fought against the British. It made them realize the injustice of the British rule and value of freedom. It made them aware that if they were together, they could defeat the British and gain independence.